The relentless summer heat of Rockaway Beach, Queens, pressed down on Sarah. At 35, she felt the city's exhaustion in her bones, a dull ache that seemed to be a permanent fixture of her life. Her small apartment, a hand-me-down from her grandmother, was a quiet refuge from the bustling streets, but it also felt like a cage. She worked the early shift at a local coffee shop, pouring lattes and forcing smiles for tourists and regulars alike. Her days blurred into a monotonous cycle of work, bus rides, and the quiet solitude of her evenings. The one place that offered her a genuine escape was the old pier. It was a weather-beaten structure of splintered wood and rust-stained railings, a silent witness to countless sunrises and sunsets. For Sarah, it was a place to breathe, to feel the ocean breeze on her face, and, for a few moments, forget the smallness of her life. This particular afternoon, the air was thick and heavy, a humid blanket that promised a storm. The sky, once a brilliant summer blue, had turned an ominous, bruised grey. The few people scattered along the pier began to pack up, their laughter and chatter replaced by a hurried tension. A sudden, violent gust of wind whipped Sarah's hair across her face, and she pulled her worn sweater tighter. The waves, which moments before had been a gentle lapping, now crashed against the pilings with a furious roar. The old wooden structure began to groan and sway, a warning of its age and frailty. Sarah was just about to leave when she saw him. A small boy, no older than 8, standing at the very end of the pier. He was mesmerized by the churning chaos of the sea, completely unaware of the danger closing in. Sarah's heart pounded in her chest. The wind shrieked, a sound that was both a howl and a warning. Then a massive wave slammed into the pier's support beams. The boy lost his footing, his arms flailing, and he vanished beneath the choppy, dark water. Without a second thought, without a moment of hesitation, Sarah ran. The pier groaned in protest, a long, tearing sound of wood splitting apart. A section of the railing gave way, crashing into the waves below. People on the beach began screaming, a chorus of terror that was swallowed by the storm. Sarah reached the jagged edge where the pier had collapsed, and in a flash of pure adrenaline, she jumped. The cold shock of the water was a jolt to her system, a violent awakening from her quiet life. She fought against the powerful current, her eyes scanning the churning water for the boy. She finally spotted him, a tiny figure thrashing desperately, his face a mask of pure terror. She swam with a strength she didn't know she possessed, reaching him just as he was about to go under again. She wrapped an arm around him, pulling his small, trembling body against her chest. With the pier now a field of floating debris, she spotted a partially submerged ladder still clinging precariously to the remaining structure. Pushing him toward it, she struggled to get him to safety. A lifeguard, who had braved the storm to reach the scene, appeared on the platform above. Together, they pulled the boy to solid ground. He was crying, gasping for air, but he was alive. As the adrenaline receded, a profound exhaustion took its place. Sarah's muscles ached, her lungs burned, and her hands, scraped and bruised, trembled uncontrollably. The lifeguard asked the boy his name, and between sobs he managed to whisper, "Daniel." Just then, a black armored SUV screeched to a halt on the sand, its doors flying open. 2 men in expensive suits, their faces etched with panic, sprinted toward them. One of them, a man with a striking, familiar face, scooped the boy into a fierce, relieved embrace. He looked up at Sarah, his eyes glistening with unshed tears, and his voice was thick with emotion as he introduced himself. "I'm Senator Arthur Thompson, and this is my son." As the words hung in the air, Sarah's world, once so small and predictable, felt as if it had just been torn open by the very same storm that had ripped the pier apart. The thunder rumbled, a final punctuation mark on a moment that would change everything. The next morning, Sarah's life was no longer her own. The story of the rescue had spread like wildfire, fueled by breathless news reports and viral cell phone videos. Her tiny apartment, usually a haven of silence, was now besieged by reporters and news vans. A television crew, with their bright lights and intrusive cameras, cornered her outside her building. "What was going through your mind, Sarah?" a reporter asked, thrusting a microphone in her face. "Are you not terrified of the sea after what happened?" another one pressed. Sarah, a woman who had spent her life trying to be invisible, was now a national sensation. The word hero was attached to her name, but it felt like a costume that didn't fit. She didn't feel like a hero. She felt like a woman who had simply reacted. She repeated to anyone who would listen that she had only done what anyone else would have done, but no one seemed to believe her. Meanwhile, the Thompson family was navigating their own storm. Senator Arthur Thompson, a man of immense power and influence, felt utterly helpless. The near loss of his son had shaken his meticulously ordered world. He realized with a sickening clarity that his relentless pursuit of political ambition had come at the expense of his family. The thought of losing Daniel was a pain more profound than any political defeat. He felt an overwhelming debt to Sarah, a woman whose name he hadn't known hours ago, a woman who had given him back his son. He tried to reach her, his calls going unanswered as she avoided the media frenzy. He felt a desperate need to repay her, to do something tangible for the woman who had done the one thing he couldn't: save his child. Sarah's attempts to return to her normal life were a comedy of errors. At the coffee shop, customers would applaud her as she poured their coffee. Strangers would stop her on the street, wanting to shake her hand and take pictures. The quiet anonymity she once cherished was gone. Her colleagues and neighbors, who had once known her simply as the quiet woman from apartment 4B, now saw her only as the Rockaway hero. It created a new kind of isolation. The world saw a brave savior, but Sarah felt more alone than ever, a stranger in her own skin. One afternoon, seeking refuge in a grocery store, she found herself face to face with a woman she recognized instantly from the news. It was Maria Thompson, the senator's wife. Maria, looking exhausted and worn down, her eyes betraying a deep private sadness, was staring blankly at a row of vegetables. She looked up, and their eyes met. "You saved my son," Maria said, her voice barely a whisper. There were no cameras, no reporters, just two women connected by a moment of tragedy. Maria didn't offer a reward, she just offered her gratitude, her gaze speaking volumes about the lonely, guarded life she led as a political wife. It was a silent, powerful connection, forged in shared vulnerability. Late that evening, a call came from an unknown number. It was Senator Thompson. His voice, stripped of its usual political polish, was raw and sincere. He didn't offer money or a key to the city. Instead, he made an offer that was both unexpected and life-changing. His wife's foundation was a small non-profit dedicated to child safety and coastal restoration. They were working on a project to rebuild the Rockaway Pier, making it safer for the community. "We need a voice," he said. "Someone who understands what happened, what this pier means to the people here. We need someone honest, someone real." He offered her a job on the team. The offer was a lifeline, a chance for Sarah to turn a fleeting moment of heroism into a lasting purpose, to finally find a place where her quiet strength could truly make a difference. The weight of her new fame suddenly felt less like a burden and more like a tool. Sarah accepted the offer, stepping out of the shadows of her old life and into the controlled chaos of the Thompson Foundation. The work was demanding, a whirlwind of meetings, site visits, and community outreach. For the first time, she felt a real sense of purpose. She wasn't just pouring coffee, she was helping to build something. The project to rebuild the Rockaway Pier wasn't just about replacing old wood and rusted metal. It was about healing a community, about transforming a symbol of a past tragedy into a beacon of future safety. Sarah, with her authentic voice and deep roots in the neighborhood, became the face of the project. Her humility and genuine care for the community made her a trusted figure, a sharp contrast to the slick, impersonal world of politics. As she immersed herself in the project, Sarah formed an unexpected but profound bond with Daniel. The boy, still processing the trauma of the Pier collapse, often came to the worksite with his mother. He saw in Sarah not the hero the world saw, but a person who understood his fear. They would sit together on the sand, sharing quiet moments. Daniel, with the unfiltered honesty of a child, would talk about missing his busy father, about feeling lost in a world that moved too fast. Sarah, in turn, would share her own journey, her struggles to find her place. Their friendship became a quiet sanctuary for both of them, a reminder that healing happens in small, personal connections. The project faced its own set of obstacles. At a town hall meeting, a group of skeptical politicians and budget-conscious critics questioned the cost and scope of the new pier. The room was filled with tension, the air thick with doubt. The Thompson Foundation's proposal, with its focus on durability and community spaces, was being torn apart by cold, calculated numbers. As the debate grew heated, Maria Thompson looked at Sarah and gave her a silent nod of encouragement. It was Sarah's moment. She stood up, her hands trembling slightly, but her voice was clear and steady. She didn't speak in political jargon or with rehearsed lines. She spoke from the heart. She recounted that fateful day, not as a heroic saga, but as a simple story of a woman who saw a child in peril on a pier that was falling apart. "This isn't just about a structure," she said, her voice gaining strength. "This is about a community that deserves a safe place to gather, to make memories, to feel the ocean breeze without fear. It's about a symbol of resilience, a promise that we will take care of our children and of each other." Her words, simple and authentic, resonated deeply with the crowd. The critics fell silent, and the community members in the audience began to applaud. Her raw sincerity had done what no political speech ever could. The final scene unfolds on a beautiful, sun-drenched day a year later at the grand opening of the new pier. The structure, built with strong, modern materials and featuring wide, safe walkways, was a testament to the community's resilience. The beach was filled with people, their faces smiling, their laughter echoing over the waves. On the main platform, Senator Thompson stood with his wife and son. He looked across the crowd, and his eyes met Sarah's. He gave her a long, heartfelt look, a silent acknowledgement of the debt he could never fully repay. Then he stepped up to the microphone. He spoke of the pier's new purpose, of community, and then he spoke of Sarah. He didn't call her a hero, he called her a friend. He publicly thanked her, not just for saving his son, but for inspiring a new path for his family and for the entire community. As the crowd cheered, Sarah looked out at the vast expanse of the ocean. The horizon, which once felt so distant and unreachable, now looked like a place of endless possibility, a wide, open invitation to the new life she had bravely built for herself.